Yes.
And Amanda.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. We're so excited to welcome you to our launch party for Amanda Wen and her debut novel, Roots of Wood and Stone. I'm Lindsay Brackett.
I'm Christiane Hunter.
And this is Amanda Wen. Christy and I are part of the podcast, A Rough Draft Life. It's our podcast, so we get to do what we want. And we're all making life up as we go along. And one of our favorite things that we get to do is we get to interview authors about their books, and we get to help launch them out into the world when they come out. And we are so happy to be doing that tonight with Amanda, because this is Amanda's very first book. It's her book baby.
It is.
Are you so excited? Can you just not stop smiling?
I know. So Amanda, it launched 2 days ago officially.
Yes.
Yes. And so I have the key question. Have you looked at reviews yet?
I have, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband has been kind of my review filter, and he's like, no, honey, go read them. They're good.
Oh, that's
good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a filter.
It is.
For that. Very much. So a few little just housekeeping things before we get started for all of our lovely viewers that are showing up. We already have a few. We've got, Jennifer's here.
Hello.
Sarah's here.
Hi, Sarah.
And Ashley's here.
Hi, Ashley.
And Aaron's here. So all the people are here. So what you can do is obviously you can comment and we will be able to see it. So that means you can ask Amanda a question whenever you want. And she'll answer a few throughout the evening. And also she's going to be very generous today. Would you like to tell them what you're doing?
I am giving away a custom 9-piece box of chocolates from local chocolatier Coco Dolce. It is my favorite spot to hang out. It's actually where my best friend, who is an author herself, she and I reconnected and we started hanging out at Coco Dolce every week. This has been 11 years now,
oh, wow.
I think. Like, I only had one kid when we reconnected, and now I have 3. And her daughter was a baby, and now her daughter is 12. So, yeah, It's been a while. So Coco Dolce is kind of our spot.
So
that's actually the perfect setting for another novel.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Lindsay and I are not eligible to win the chocolates. So.
We're glad.
If I laugh, it's because my children are watching me on YouTube and they're leaving comments.
That's so sweet.
I didn't really expect that they would do that, but yeah.
My children do not engage with me, so that's sweet.
They're saying hello from down the hall.
Yes,
hello, I love it. Hello from down the hall. That's super cute.
That is very nice. So, Lindsay, you want to go through the other stuff? I lost my notes. So, Lindsay, you get to take this part.
Christy lost her notes. I was just going to let her run with it. All right, y'all. For those of you who don't know, I'm Lindsay Brackett, and I write Southern women's fiction. My latest novel is Magnolia Mistletoe. It was a Christmas novella, actually came out in November. And Christy writes Regency romance, and she has a book coming out in April, Winning the Gentleman. So we are both writers, we are podcasters, and we, like I said earlier, really love to interview and help authors launch their books out into the world. And we are going to make tonight all about Amanda. So here's some things you need to know about Amanda. Not only is she a very talented writer, she is a very talented musician. She plays the cello, professional cellist, y'all. Now, my husband plays the cello, and by plays, I mean he played in high school in the orchestra and has only played once since. We've been married for 18 years.
Nice.
I play the stereo.
It's impressive to keep it up. Very impressive to keep it up. But in addition to writing and playing the cello, Amanda is also a mom. So of 3, correct?
Yes.
3. And I hear you call them the Winlets. Is that right?
The Winlets. Yes,
the Winlets. You can follow her on Facebook, and you will be able to, apparently, I hear, read all the things that her children say that are hilarious.
Uh-huh.
Have they said anything funny in the last 24 hours?
Yeah. My daughter loves unicorns. So she got a set of headphones that light up and flash, and my oldest he just turned 12, and he is like, make it stop, you're going to give me a seizure, or you're going to give me epilepsy. And she goes, you don't have epilepsy. And he says, well, I don't have it yet. So that was tonight. They snark each other, and they are really funny. And everybody says I'm funny on Facebook, and I'm like, I would have nothing to post if it were not for my children.
I love it. Mind your children. That's what they're for.
Speaking of your children, I think this is one of your children.
You got
Yes.
this.
That is one of my children.
That is sweet.
Hi, Jonathan.
So we also did want to make this night about Amanda, but there was a few people you wanted to give a shout out to.
That's right. There were a couple of other authors that you wanted to recognize.
Yes, I wanted to say congrats to my friends Heidi Chevaroli. She's another split time author. She's actually kind of who inspired me to write Split Time. And she has a new one coming out. It's called The Orchard House, and it releases Tuesday. And I actually just bought a copy yesterday, so I can't wait to dig in. And then my friend Jennifer Dybel, she is also a debut author who released on Tuesday. And she has a book called A Dance in Donegal. She used to live in Ireland, and this book is set in Ireland. And my past hero, Jack Brennan, is from Ireland. So there's kind of a neat little tie in there. So I wanted to give a shout out to those two.
Well,
that is very cool.
Sweetest pie, because I have met her a couple of times, and I don't know Jennifer, but I've seen her book everywhere, and I'm really excited about possibly picking that up.
Yeah, I got that one yesterday too.
I know Jennifer, like internet know Jennifer.
Well,
you and Jennifer met her in person. Yeah. And so when I was like holding her book up on launch day, and I was like, I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, I had to ask.
So I'm glad that you introduced, because I didn't know how to say her name either, and I was worried about that. Well, by the way, Christy, I feel like we should, you and I should have to give away a prize if somebody can find the typo in your heading there.
Yeah, well,
I found it.
I am an author. I don't know what you are, but I'm an author.
Nice.
You're an author.
I'm an author. Yeah. But in case anybody else needs to remember how to pronounce Jennifer's name, she was telling me how it is, and it's Dybel.
Yeah.
So I have decided Jennifer is now a matador. And she's just screaming Dybel all over the place.
Dybel.
So now you can remember how to say Jennifer's name.
I didn't have to ask Heidi, but I did have to ask Jennifer.
I know. We didn't have to ask Heidi.
I think I had heard her name. I heard of her at ACFW. So then I heard it spoken. And so then when I saw it, it's like, okay, that's how you pronounce that.
There you go. There you go. Well, they are great authors to be giving shout outs to. Sweet women who we also wish very good things to happen to in their books as well.
All right. Well, I'm going to pop off. You will, however, see me in the little words coming across your screen.
Or Christy's
I am the woman behind the curtain.
By woman behind the curtain. There she goes. There she goes. Oh, look, I feel like I got space now.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's more of my office showing now.
I can see you better.
Yeah.
Not that we don't miss you, Christy, because we do. So, Amanda, we are so excited that tonight we are going to talk to you not just about your book. We are going to talk to you as a debut author, as a mom, as someone who is going through their publishing journey in kind of, different, unusual circumstances. It's those of you who have had to launch books literally in the last year, ever since March. It's been different than what it usually is. Certainly different than the experience that I know I had eons ago, it feels like, in 2017. So what we want to know, and I don't know if we've got any viewer questions coming in, but if y'all have got questions, go ahead and ask them, because this is our little time period right now where Amanda is kind of an ask me anything.
Yeah.
Anything you ask Amanda right now, we're gonna see about letting her answer. But what we really want to talk about is, how did this come about? Like, let's tell everybody your publishing story. How did you come to be a published author? Because they say 80% of the world carries a book in them. So many people say, oh, I want to write a book.
Okay.
But so few of us actually do. And so that's really what sets you apart, is not only did you want to write a book, you actually then sat down and wrote it. So tell us a little bit about your publishing journey.
It's kind of a long story, but that's okay.
That's okay.
We're all about long stories. We're novelists.
That's right.
I've been writing kind of my whole life just for fun as a kid. And then I started playing piano when I was 5, and I played cello when I was 9, and music kind of became, that's what I wanted to focus on. And, homework in high school doesn't necessarily make you want to write forever.
No.
So I did that, but then I didn't really write for fun at all. I majored in cello. I have 2 degrees in cello performance, and that is still my day job. I play cello. I play piano too. I accompany a local high school and middle school choir, which is super fun. But anyway, writing never left me. And this had been about 13 years. My husband was in school. We didn't have any kids. We were living in Champaign, Illinois, which is a couple hours south of Chicago. And my husband was going to acupuncture school in Chicago. And so he was gone 2 or 3 days a week, and I was home by myself. And I remember one night I had a dream, and it was this scene that just kind of leaped into my head, and I'm going, I want to know what happens next. And so I just kind of sat down at the computer and started to write. And the next thing I knew, like, my husband was home and I was still in my pajamas, and it was, 12 hours later and I hadn't done anything. And he's like, what have you been doing all day? And I said, I've been writing. And he goes, okay, I didn't know you did that. And I was like, I didn't really know I did that either. But he was a corporate auditor when we got married and became an acupuncturist. So I was like, you owe me one midlife crisis that I get to go through. So
I think so.
Anyway, and then I started having kids. And so the writing kind of took a backseat. I had all 3 of our kids in 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's kind of busy. And then when my daughter was about a year old, I got another story idea, and that was the one that just really stuck. And by then I had moved back to Wichita. I could reconnected with my best friend, and she's a multi-published. She actually writes Regency as well, in the general market. So she wasn't in the inspirational market at all, but she knew publishing. And I finally got up the guts to let her read one of my stories. And, we've been best friends since like 6th grade. So I'm like, if you saw me with brick wall bangs, I can probably let you read my story and it'll be okay. And she was like, yeah, you have a lot of newbie writer errors, but you also have promise. And so she kind of coached me through it. And I wrote a couple of like mass market type novels, but that didn't really feel right. And then I wrote an inspirational romance. It was a contemporary romance. And that one, she said, you're ready to enter contests. And I said, okay. And then another friend of mine who may or may not be here, I don't know if Linda's here yet or not, but my friend Linda Fletcher, who's also a critique partner of mine, she said, I heard about this contest called First Impressions, and like it's only the first 5 pages of your book. There's only so much they can do to the first 5 pages.
That's true.
And I was like, okay, so I will enter that. And I got a call a couple months later that I had made the finals. And I was like, there are 3 finalists. Did only 3 people enter? I was shocked that I had made the finals. And then I was even more shocked a month later when they called me and told me I had won.
Oh,
and
was that this past year?
This was in 2016. This was the ACFW First Impressions contest in 2016. 2016, yeah.
I think I entered that and got
rejected. Did you? So I got my critique back, and I got a really good score from one of the judges, and it was Tamala Hancock Murray, who's the judge. Mm-hmm. And she's like, if you don't already have an agent, submit to me. And so I did, and that's how I found her. So that's how I got my agent. And then she put that contemporary romance on submission, and it did not sell. And I was like, okay. And I had ideas at that point for a split time. And I kind of floated the idea to Tamala, and she was like, split time's kind of hard to sell. And I said, okay. But that's kind of what I want to write. She's like, look, I love your writing. So whatever you want to write, I will market for you. So I wrote the split time. And I actually entered it in Genesis, and it did terrible. Like, that's the worst contest scores I've ever received was for this book. So that's just, if there's anybody out there that is an aspiring writer, contests can be great, but they're not the be all end all.
They are completely arbitrary.
Yeah. I mean, I did get a break from one, but the one that they didn't like in the contest is my debut novel. So you never know. So around this time, I was on Twitter, and I had kind of befriended some of the other First Impressions winners and finalists. And one of them is Rachel McDaniel, who's also a critique partner of mine. Yes. And through her, I met this other writer, Janier Trump. And I know you know Janier. Janier's daughter was having some medical issues at the time. She was in the hospital, and my husband had just gotten through a hospitalization for an illness. And so I had a soft spot for, mysterious illnesses and lengthy hospitalization. So I started praying for Janier's daughter. I didn't even know Janier at all. And then I became friends with Janier. And then a couple of weeks later, I don't know, it was a while, Rachel goes, you know, Janier is an editor for Kriegel, right? And I was like, no, I just thought she was a writer. And you're like, no, she buys books for Kriegel. And so then I like scrolled through all of our conversations to make sure I hadn't said anything dumb.
Oh,
But it was fine. And then she knew I was writing a split time, and she was kind of excited about it. She's like, oh, hi, Janier. Hey, you're here.
hey, Janier.
So I met her at ACFW, and I was going to pitch to her. And when I met her at a reception for, like, I think the Genesis contest people or something. I remember meeting her before my pitch session, and I was kind of nervous to like pitch to her, even though we were friends. And she goes, oh, I read your book on the plane. I'm like 3/4 the way through it, and I love it. So I was like, oh, so I don't have to give you my awkward little elevator pitch? And she's like, nope, we're good. And so that's how I found Kriegel.
I love this story because it has so many layers, and it's not a cut and dry, oh, I just submitted 57,000 things and got 57,000 rejections. And, you know, I love how it's like you were just being you. And, you know, you weren't praying for her because you wanted her to give you a book contract. You just, like, that's a genuine, that's one of the nice things about the inspirational market. I do feel like it's got there's just a lot of that. There's a lot of that, like, connection that comes first. And then oftentimes the books and the contracts sometimes come later.
Yeah.
And so, but it really is it's such a business about networking. And I think that's one of the hardest things right now is how difficult it is. I mean, it's not as difficult to network because we have social media, but networking in person, I really miss that. I miss the connections, I miss the conferences, I miss the groups. I miss being able to do that. And so I love this story, Amanda. That's great. And I saw a bunch of questions coming across. I think I'm going to feed some of them to us. Everybody wants to know what inspired you to write this particular story.
Okay.
Which is going to be perfect because that's going to lead us right into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is this family home that you write about. So give everybody, since you didn't get to use it on Janier, give everybody your elevator pitch for this novel, and then tell us what inspired your story.
I don't even remember my elevator pitch for this novel anymore. But what inspired it is an old farmhouse that was built in 1890. And it is about 3 miles away from, oh, there it is. Hey, it's about 3 miles from where I live. I live in Wichita. I grew up in Wichita. I went to college elsewhere and came back.
We need to discuss that, by the way. Notice Amanda's beautiful dress. You too can get you one.
Yes.
At the Target.
Target Pioneer Dress Challenge. I don't even know how it started. I think people just were like, Target, we're living in a pandemic, so Target wants us to look like we just lost the farm to locusts. And they have all of these dresses that look like Pioneer dresses. And the challenge is to get the Pioneer dress and then take a picture of yourself doing something pioneery while wearing the dress. And I've seen people hold chickens and dance jigs. And it's funny, but normally I would be a little too self-conscious to do something like that. But I'm like, okay, I'd asked God for help for marketing, and he gives me a challenge where you're supposed to do something pioneering, and my book has pioneers in it. I mean, come on. He's like laying it over the plate for me. So,
and listen, if you need to see someone in the Pioneer dress holding a chicken, you can go to Christiane Hunter's Instagram page.
Is it Christy that says she dropped a chicken?
She dropped the chicken.
Nice.
I don't have a Pioneer dress. Actually, I do. I have one that my grandmother made me when I was 10 years old because I genuinely believed that I was going to grow up to be Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Nice.
Because you could grow up to be her, apparently.
Yes.
So that's the Pioneer dress I have. I don't think it still fits. All right. Sorry, I interrupted you. Okay. Inspiration for your story. Yes.
So yeah, the Pioneer thing. The people that lived in this house were some of the original pioneers in Sedgwick County, Kansas, which is where I live. And my mom has traced our family history for probably 50 years. So she knew that this house belonged to some of our ancestors. And, growing up with a genealogist mom, like most kids would go to like Disney World or California or someplace on vacation. And we went to small towns so my mom could do research. So like my childhood vacations were to places like Bean Blossom, Indiana. That's a real place.
Bean Blossom, Indiana.
Bean Blossom. And I have been there. We have ancestors there. And so my mom would go to like the libraries and the courthouses, and she would do research, and which now as an author, I totally appreciate research. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, I'm like, how many Calvin and Hobbes books does this library have? And can I read all of them by the time my mom is done? So,
that's funny.
yeah. So she knows all of the family stories. And this ancestor was actually the most recent immigrant in our family. He came from Ireland in 1861. That's the last person to come from anywhere in our family, which I think is kind of cool that I married. My husband's parents are from mainland China. So like my kids on one side, they're 6th generation Kansans. On the other side, they're 2nd generation Americans. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But anyway, these people that lived in this house this was the Irish immigrant and his wife. And my great great grandpa, Francis Little, he's the one that lived in the house. He actually wrote a memoir, and the memoir kind of helped me research for the book. And I took a few details from his backstory and put them into the book. So the house, it was in the family for a long time. I think it's been unoccupied for probably 20 years, and they sold the land to the developer. So I'd never seen the inside before, but I got brave, and somehow I found out that one of our distant cousins was the most recent, like I think his mom was the one who lived in the house or something. But he gave me a tour. I connected with him and was able to get a tour of the inside. And of course, I brought my mom because my mom had never seen the inside either. I was like, Mom, I want to see the inside of Grandpa Little's house. She's like, you've got to be kidding me. And I said, nope, we have a distant cousin who's going to show me. So
that's so amazing.
Yeah.
And then what I love is you were telling me, okay, you went into the house and you had already developed some things about your story.
Yeah.
And then you went into the house and discovered that you had written about her love of lace curtains.
Yeah, Annabelle, my pioneer heroine, she has a thing for lace curtains. Like that's a recurring theme throughout the book. And I walk into the living room of this house and there's lace curtains on the windows. And
perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. It was just meant to be.
Yep. I think that's a picture of them down there. Maybe
it was a picture. Christy
Yeah.
can pick up. She sure can.
Which way do I point? No. Yeah, there, right there.
So tell us a little bit. All right, so you've got a dual timeline novel happening. So we've got the Pioneers, and what year is that?
1870s-ish. There's several. It covers quite a bit of time, but most of the story is in the 1870s.
Okay, 1870s. And then the other storyline is contemporary?
Yes.
Like pre-pandemic contemporary?
Yeah, when people can still shake hands and go places without masks and eat at restaurants.
I
Sing.
want to live in that world again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pioneers are in the book. I think she's making typos on purpose at this point.
How many giveaways do you all want to do?
I think that's what she's doing on purpose. Okay. All right. So what else do you want to tell us about this? She can't type today. Poor Christy. She's struggling. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We forgive you. We love you anyway.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. So when you walked in the house, what did you first think? Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, it was really cool to be there. I mean, I had heard about these people for so long, and then to like be in the house where they had lived. I mean, the house it wasn't in great shape, and there had been a lot of remodeling done. Like the kitchen is like bright blue, like literally everything in the kitchen is bright blue. And some of the upstairs was literally falling apart. I mean, the pictures, I didn't send very many pictures because there really weren't. I mean, it looked like it had been abandoned for 20 years, but it was still very cool. And like the house in the book, like I had already kind of written the book before I saw the inside of the house. So like the inside didn't really match my imagination. So, but that's okay. The outside still did.
I love it. I think.
There's some pictures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that top one, that's the living room. That's with the lace curtains.
Okay.
And then the bottom one is kind of, I think that the house has been added onto several times. And that is like almost a sunroom thing on the top floor.
Okay.
If I remember right.
On the top floor. Okay. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So did you tell us what year the house was built? Do y'all know?
It was built in 1890 is what I'm told.
Okay. 1890. All right.
And it originally belonged to another, like I have seen a map of like the claims and stuff from when Sedgwick County was first founded. And that was not my ancestor's claim. My great-great-great-grandfather, he's another inspiration of my past hero, Jack Brennan. He had a claim that's actually like, I want to say 5 or 6 miles directly north of my house. Like if I just get in the car, point it north, there's his land. And then his daughter married Francis Little. And so Francis and Maddie ended up in Harper County, which is a little bit south of here. South and west, I think. My Kansas geography is blanking. So Kansas people, you can tell me where Harper County is. They were there for a while, and then they moved back to Sedgwick County, and they moved into that house in 1901. So
I love old houses. I used to tell my husband, well, even before I met him and we got married, but I used to dream about, I was going to like buy this old house and restore it. And it was just going to be amazing. And then I actually got married and like we started buying houses,
Yeah.
There will be no restoring of an old house for Lindsay Brackett. I do not like projects.
I don't either. I don't even really like when we bought our house, like our current house is maybe 20 years old, a little over 20 years old. And like all we had to do was paint. And that was all I ever wanted to do. I love old houses. I totally appreciate them. But yeah.
I want to move into one that is already renovated for me. Like I want someone else to do all the work. And then I just want to come in and buy it. It's the like having to make decisions. And it becomes very overwhelming. I can't do it.
Decision paralysis. That is a real thing.
Yes. And I think, maybe if I like had the, limitless bank account, it might be a little better.
Yeah.
But that's not really happening on my particular author salary.
No, me neither.
Yeah, probably not happening for you yet either. But I just decided that old houses were definitely not going to be for me. Like,
my oldest son says that old houses have asbestos.
Asbestos. Just looking out for you.
Yes, and we have a comment about the restored houses at Cowtown in Wichita. Cowtown is a living history museum downtown Wichita. It's kind of Wichita restored as it was in the 1870s. So that was another cool place to go and do research. So you can kind of walk along on the boarded sidewalks and see like the newspaper office and churches and all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, that's very cool. I love all these comments we're getting from people who are from Kansas and know Kansas. Yes. Oh, let's see what Karen is saying. Her parents live in a house that was built in 1800 back in the day, a fire station, but it was originally the first post office in town.
Oh, that's so
I
cool.
do love places like that with so much history. There used to be a show, it's probably still on HGTV, and they would like old places people lived that weren't meant to be houses, but are now houses, like churches and stuff. So interesting.
Well, and my husband thinks I'm adorable. Like, I'm like, oh, look at that old house. It's like from 1900 or whatever. He's from Boston. So, like, old to him, it has to be before 1800 before he will consider it even.
Yeah, they have a different view.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are old, my children felt the need to tell us the other day that we were old because we were born in the 1900s.
Yeah, I saw a thing on Facebook, like, apparently someone was buying beer or something and they got carded and they just glanced at it and gave it back. And they're like, what was that? And like, oh, we were just looking for the one. And they're like, the one, like 19. If you were born in a year that starts with 19, you are old enough to buy alcohol now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those things that'll make you feel real old real quick.
Yep. I got my first pair of reading glasses last week. So that makes me feel old too.
What makes you feel old? I'm sorry.
I have reading glasses now. My optometrist was like, it's about time. You wouldn't have to. But I was like, okay, then stop. But my husband got me some at the dollar store and they help. So,
well, Christy and I talked about this on the podcast actually a couple of weeks ago on our What We're Loving episode because I love my new blue light reading glasses. Same reason. And not only do I love them, I also caved and have made myself my very first eye appointment ever.
Oh, yeah?
Like have my eyes checked. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm 40 and apparently that's what I need to do. So. Speaking of old things.
Yeah, I just saw that comment. The home that used to be a funeral home.
They live in the funeral home. Oh, that's so creepy.
Yeah.
Is it creepy?
Kind of creepy. I mean, not really. I have my great grandparents on my mom's side were morticians and they lived right next to the mortuary.
Next to the mortuary.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Brenda. I do feel better.
That's a sweet. Oh, I meant to ask you, because Brenda must be somebody that you know.
Yeah.
Who is your friend who's the general market novelist? Let's shout out to
Her
her.
name is Teresa Romaine, and I don't think she's able to be here tonight, but her pen name is Teresa Romaine.
Teresa Romaine. All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. I wonder if Christy's read any Teresa Romaine. She reads a lot of general market reading.
Okay.
Yeah. We know I'm very well educated on it. I read Christy Ann Hunter and I watched Bridgerton. Therefore I know it all.
I've heard a lot about Bridgerton. I think I may need to watch this. One of my choir students was telling me that she had just binge watched all of it and she loved it. And she's like, you write historical things, you should read this or watch Bridgerton.
Well, you have to watch Bridgerton knowing that it earned its TVMA rating. So
good to know.
Yes, good to know. All right. Any other questions we want to get to before we start talking theme stuff, Christy? What other questions you got you want to throw up for us? I can sneak over here and look at the comments. Old, is anyone 20 years older?
Yeah, I agree. There we go.
That's true. Yeah. Yes. Because I called someone a child the other day and they really are like 22. Like, you're a child. Yeah. Talk to me. Yes, every comment is a entry for chocolate. Yes. All right. Christy, what other questions do we need to ask that I haven't seen pop up? Do we know?
I think someone back.
Where is the story that was inspired by your dream?
In a desk drawer.
Yes, everyone should have a story in the desk drawer.
Yeah.
It's how we learn to write.
Uh-huh. I saw that question earlier. That's a good question. I write slowly because I don't have a lot of time to write. And also, I really envy the people who plot out their whole entire novels in advance and they know what each chapter is going to be. And
they also change things and then they get annoyed.
I can't do that. But then I also am not a fast drafter either. Like there are people that just, okay, I'm just going to get it all out there and then I'll fix it. I can't do that either. I kind of have to fix as I go because if I know there's something I want to fix, then I can't let it go. I have to fix it before I move on. Like, typos or whatever, no. But like a big plot thing, it's like if I know this is already not going to work, then I'll want to go back and revise. So I draft about 4 chapters ahead of where I'm revising because usually like the drafted chapters are like, oh, I need to put that in here. I need to add this, take this out or whatever. So that part took probably 6 to 9 months, maybe. I don't remember.
Okay. That's not slow.
Yeah, maybe a year. I don't know. Because like split time, my agent told me when I was talking about writing split time, she said, you realize you're going to basically write 2 books and only get paid for one. And I was like, yeah, but I like this kind of book. So I'm willing to do it. So anyway, yeah. And then the revisions, polishing and everything. I think I submitted it at ACFW 2018 was when I submitted it. And so then it was on submission for quite a while. It takes over a year, I think. Like we submitted it in July of 2018 and I signed my contract in like September of 2019. Mm-hmm. And that was a cool story. Just my parents celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2019 and they took a trip to Europe. My mom has never been. My dad was in the Air Force in the 60s while he and my mom were dating. Mm-hmm. And they went to Europe. My dad took her to Germany, but my mom was like, I want to see where our ancestors are from. Like she'd never been to England or Ireland and all of them. Basically, British Isles, that's where we're from. Mm-hmm. So she wanted to go to Ireland. She wanted to go to the little town that I can't pronounce where the Littles are originally from, my ancestors that inspired the book. And so when I got my contract offer and got to call my mom to tell her, she was in a cafe in the town in Ireland where the ancestors are from. So
that is really cool.
Yeah, I knew where she was. And she knew. I was like, Mom, are you still up? I have news. And it was like they were 7 hours ahead. So of course she wasn't. And so then the next morning she's like, what news? And I said, I'm calling you. I am not going to text this. But she knew, she knew what it was. So
of course, mother's always
surprised. But anyway, so I don't know if that answered. Anyway, so then I had revisions and that was my project for spring and summer 2020 when I wasn't gigging or, working in my choir job or leaving the house. I was revising my book. I had time.
It's about all you do.
Was fried, but I think it turned out okay. So
I can't say this person. I can't say your name, sweetie. Avid. And she wants to know, do you have another book in the works?
I do. It's a sequel to Roots of Wood and Stone. And Kriegel has rights of first refusal with it. So I will finish it, submit it to them, and hopefully they like it well enough to publish it. And if they don't, then I'll find another way to do it.
Well, there you go. Okay, so it's not quite finished yet.
Yeah, it's I'm working on it. But then like launching the book, I basically haven't touched it in a month. So I need to get back on the horse. But this is all kind of, I had no idea how much work a lot of this stuff would be. So this I'm learning as I go.
Oh, Brenda wants to know if you would be willing to be interviewed by a high school student.
I would.
I love that.
I just saw the private chat. We have a spammer. It's her kids. Yep, it's my kids.
That's what Christy said. She thought somebody's writing in Arabic.
Yeah, I don't know why. Jonathan, stop writing in Arabic.
He just thinks it's cool. He wants to show off he can write in Arabic. All right. Okay, so we are going to move on. Save your questions. Oh, wait, one more question. Put it back on, Christy. Okay. Which character turned out completely different from what you had originally imagined?
I don't know that any of them turned out completely different, but I will say that Sloane, my contemporary heroine, was probably the one who I had to work the hardest to get to know. She has some trust issues and she's kind of a tough nut to crack. And the way I get to know characters is I just write them and see what they do. Like, okay, you're here in a room, do something and let me see what you do. And she's just like, why should I trust you? I don't know who you are. So basically it was her and me kind of playing chicken, trying to see who would blink first. And finally, in about chapter 4 or 5, I'm drafting and I still have like basically no idea who this person is. And I said, all right, sweetie, you and I have to got something in common. So I made her a musician. Like I give her a musical hobby. She works at a museum, but I made her a singer. And so it's like, okay, we need to have something in common so that we can establish some common ground. And it'd be really cool if the hero likes music too. So I threw them together in a musical setting. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I can write these people now. This is fine.
Oh, then you knew them. And then it worked.
Yeah.
I am so in awe of you people with musical talent because I have zero musical talent. And yet I am writing a book about a pianist.
Really? Cool.
Yeah. And her love interest, he has an ear for music, a natural ear, and he can play the guitar and the banjo and anything he wants. And it's Appalachia. And so I'm drafting this book. And I leave notes in it that say things like, and then she does something on the piano and it's going to be really like this. And somebody help me pick out what that is. And then my partner, who is a professional musician, she's like, Lindsay, here's what she does.
Nice. Who's your critique partner?
Do what? Yeah, she's a good critique partner. She is.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I told Ashley Rescott also. She's here partying with us.
Yeah, hi,
Ashley. Yes, I told Ashley I was going to have to send it to her and let her lend some musical information to me as well when I finally.
Yeah, Ashley is also an author and a musician. And the funny thing, we connected on Instagram, and I just was like, oh, she plays the violin and she writes books. We have some things in common. And then she posted a picture of like her mom and a couple of her aunts playing violin. And I'm like, I know this family. They live in Wichita.
I love that y'all know each other.
Yeah, Ashley comes from a big family and they all are musicians and a lot of them still live here. And so Ashley and I are just far enough apart in age. We were never in youth symphony or anything at the same time. But a couple of Ashley's cousins went to high school with me. So I knew them. And so then I messaged her like, okay, we actually kind of know each other, even though we don't know that we do.
Well, you have something else in common too, because I edited Ashley's book. And
I did.
Very good.
Cool.
Yeah. And I was going to say, y'all need to know each other.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. See, it is a small world after all. I feel like we should play the song. All right. So let's get deep dive into Roots of Wood and Stone. First of all, it's a fabulous title.
Oh, thank you. I had nothing to do with it. Kriegel came up with it.
Well, Janae, it's a fabulous title. So, I love it. All right. So it's dual timeline. And I'm going to assume that most of our watchers tonight know what dual timeline means. But maybe we should tell them just in case.
Yeah, dual timeline. And this is kind of a subgenre. And so there's not like an official name for it yet. People call it time slip, or split time, or dual timeline. And yeah, there are two timelines. Usually there's one that is a contemporary timeline and then one that is historical, and they link together in some way. Usually there's like what's called a linking object. So like the house would be the one for my book. Heidi Chevaroli's first one is called Freedom's Ring. And the past timeline is in the Revolutionary War, and the current timeline is dealing with the aftermath of the Boston Marathon bombing. Heidi is from the Boston area, and so all of her stories are kind of set in that time period, and the linking object there is literally a ring. So I love that the title is Freedom's Ring. That's just the perfect title for that. So anyway, sometimes a lot of times the present characters will be investigating the past story in some way, shape, or form. Like they'll find this thing and they'll want to know, well, whose is it and what's the story behind it? Or there was one, I think it's by Susan Meissner, and it deals with the aftermath of 9/11, and it actually deals with a missing object, like someone is missing a scarf, I think it is. Okay. And so they're searching for, like a lot of times the split time, it'll be like they find this thing, and hers was kind of a twist in that the thing was missing and they were looking for it.
I love that you mentioned Susan Meissner, because shout out to her. Yeah. Sue had a book come out Tuesday also.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she did.
There were so many books that came out on Tuesday. I knew I was going to miss one of them at least.
Listen, you are in such good company with the February book releases.
Yeah.
All right, so Dual Timeline, we've got two stories going on. And in Amanda's book, it is the pioneer story from 1870s in Wichita, Kansas, and then a contemporary story. Yes. All right, which centers on Sloan.
Uh-huh. Oh, did we freeze? I think Lindsay froze.
Center. Oh,
back. She's back. Okay. For a minute there, Lindsay. I was popping in to rescue.
I was talking.
You froze.
Oh, I froze, she said. Am I okay now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Sometimes the internet has a little hiccup. We don't know.
It does. Especially when literally everyone is using it right now, because that's what we do.
That's true. So we've got Sloan, who is running a museum, and if you need to just read the very beginning of Amanda's book, and then you'll be totally sucked in, you'll be like, Kriegel, take all my money. You can read an excerpt of it on the Kriegel website. I think Christy can probably throw that link up here for us. But
you can? Cool.
You can, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Sloane's doing her museum thing, and in comes Garrett, and he's like, hey, we cleaned out my grandma's house, and here's this box of stuff. And she's like, oh, we don't really take that. And he's like, I'll be back later. Here's a business card. And he just walks away.
He's kind of used to getting his way.
But this is how she discovers, it's a journal, right? A diary?
Yeah. The box that Garrett brings has an old satchel in it. And, they're like, well, let's take it to the museum. It looks old. And Sloan has had it up to here with people just bringing in old stuff. I actually did some research on pet peeves of museum curators. So my Google search history is very interesting, but I found a blog from a museum curator, and she's like, the number one thing that bugs me is people bringing junk in that they cleaned out of somebody's basement, and they think that we want it just because it looks old. Like, it has to have some historical significance. Just because it's old doesn't mean we want to display it. So I was like, I can work with that. So yeah, Garrett has this old suitcase, a satchel thing, and Sloan is like, it's not in very good shape. We don't know, anything. This person's name means nothing. And then she opens it, and there's a diary. So
yeah. And then she gets sucked into the story.
She does.
All right. So what I love about Sloan is that you have told us that one of Sloan's issues, one of her character arcs, is that here you've got this woman who is basically preserving the past of everyone else, and she doesn't know her own.
Nope.
So tell us a little bit about Sloan. You said she was hard to get to know, and she felt like she had trust issues from the very beginning, and you didn't know why, and then you discovered it's because...
Well, I have to be careful. I have a request for no spoilers. So
okay, no spoilers.
Be super circumspect, but Sloan is adopted, and it wasn't. Let's see. I don't think it'll spoil too much. She was abandoned as a baby, and her identity. She has no idea who her birth family was. And she's had a good relationship with her adoptive parents, but it still feels like there's just this big hole in her life. I don't know who I am. And I want to find where I came from and why these decisions were made. So she kind of gets into history because, like, well, if I can't answer my own questions, I can at least answer other people's questions and fill in their blanks. Like, what's with this thing in Wichita? Like, why is this important? Oh, well, I can tell you that. So yeah, she really just doesn't. She loves facts. She loves research, and the fact that she doesn't know anything about where she comes from, that really kind of drives her.
I would think so. Yeah. I love it when you've got a historian who is so consumed with the history of everybody else, but they struggle with their own. I think it's just a really nice, it's a nice dichotomy there. All right. So not only is Sloane struggling to deal with her own past and not knowing that background, you've got Garrett, who has of course dumped all this old stuff on her. And Garrett likes things to go Garrett's way, from what I understand. Is this true?
Yeah. Yep, he's kind of like, I think of all the characters in the book, I would say I'm probably most like Garrett, because he and I are both planners, control freaks. We have big calendars, and so I imagine 2020 was difficult for him too.
I'm sure that it was.
But he is kind of in a difficult situation. His parents are out of the picture. His mom is dead, and his dad is remarried and living in Florida, and basically just see ya. So then he and his sister Lauren, they have grandparents that have lived in this old farmhouse forever. And
the farmhouse.
Yes, the farmhouse. Garrett's grandmother has Alzheimer's, and his grandfather was doing a good job taking care of her, but then he dies suddenly a few months before the story begins. So Garrett and Lauren are now like tasked with trying to figure out, how do we care for our grandmother, who is getting to the point where maybe she shouldn't be living on her own anymore. Garrett actually does not live in Wichita in this story. He lives in Kansas City, which is about 3 hours to our northeast.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Super Bowl mania around here right now. Anyway, Garrett and Lauren are at odds with how to care for Grandma. Garrett thinks the perfect plan: sell the house, put her in a assisted living facility, problem solved. But Grandma doesn't really want to leave her home of most of her life, and Lauren is an enabler with her. So she's like, no, I'll move in. I'll take care of Grandma. It'll be fine. So Lauren moves in, and Garrett can see, okay, yeah, this is working all right for now. But he, as a forward-thinking planner type, he's like, this is not sustainable. We don't know how long this is going to work. Yeah, it's okay for now, but we need a plan. And so he has got this plan, but he has to get everybody else on board with the plan.
And Garrett is going to learn that maybe sometimes you can't plan for everything in life, I would assume.
Maybe. Sometimes things can surprise you.
Well, when you were telling me about Garrett, I really love that you said this past year has really upended things for those of us who are wired this way.
Yes.
And that you've had to really learn to depend on God more, just as Garrett does in the book as well. And I think that's a really, when you can get to that place where you can say, I really am not in control of this. And I have to accept that the Lord is, and he only wants good things for me. That's a good place, but getting there is hard. Very hard. All right. What else we got, Christy? We have more questions. Do we have more questions to talk about? Who are you cheering for in the Super Bowl on Sunday? It's very important.
Oh, I'm going to alienate so many people. My husband and I are diehard New England Patriots fans, so we hate both teams and we don't care. And it's going to be really hard to watch Tom Brady, our 6-time Super Bowl champion quarterback, in the Super Bowl playing for somebody else. So I really don't want to see Brady win a Super Bowl with someone else. So I would have to say that I am reluctantly rooting for the Chiefs this weekend.
Kansas
people, take what you can get from a salty Patriots fan.
Well, you're doing better than me, because I actually don't know who's playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I like the Patriots. That's how we met.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's from Boston, so he's a big Patriots fan. And my mom has rooted for the Patriots forever, because back in the 70s, I think there was a quarterback named Steve Grogan, who was from Kansas. And at the time, like, somebody from Kansas making it to the NFL, that's a big deal. And he played for the Patriots. So my mom becomes this Patriots fan. So I kind of grew up cheering for the Patriots. And my husband and I met at a watch party for the Boston Red Sox, because I also kind of like, once you start rooting for one New England team, you start rooting for them all. And so I met Cheech at this party, and I mentioned to him that I was a Patriots fan. And apparently at that moment, he's like, all right, I found her. There she is. Target acquired.
I love it.
So our first, he had tickets to a Patriots game, and we were living in Illinois at the time. Indianapolis is 2 hours east. It was a Patriots-Colts game. So he's like, I got a ticket. You want to come? And I was like, yes. I found out later he bumped a friend for his ticket. He's like, yeah, I had kind of promised it to somebody else, but then I met you. So we got married, so it all worked out.
That is
the Patriots are like a big part of our story. So yeah.
It's a great story. That is a really, really great story. All right. So, what else we got? It's so much fun reading your book after meeting you.
Thank you.
I think that's so true. I enjoy books so much more after I've met the author, because I don't know. I feel differently about them.
I didn't know any authors. Like, I was a bookworm kid growing up, but I didn't know any authors until my high school history teacher. I think I have a friend from high school in the chat, Robin. Hi, Robin. I don't know if Robin was in Mrs. LaFoy's class with me, but we had a history teacher who wrote romance novels on the side. And I bought her book just because, like, I know somebody that wrote a book.
My students, when I go in and substitute teach, they think it's hilarious to Google my name, because a lot of them know I'm a writer. And of course, my website comes up, and then they always know, like, what if I buy your book, Miss Brackett? And it's like the 12-year-old boys, you know, and I'm going, you're not my target audience. But why don't you buy it and give it to your mom? So.
Yes, I have some of my choir students that are like, I read your book, and so it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know, being a musician and being known as that, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I also wrote a book, and So Robin says yes, she was in Mrs. LaFoy's class and she bought her books too. So
that is so fun.
So now I know a ton of authors, and it's really cool to know them. I actually have another author in our family. My husband's cousin, her name is Andrea Y. Wang, and she writes children's books and middle grade fiction. So she has a book coming out soon too. So yeah, she's it's kind of fun that there's two of us in the family now.
I feel like you are surrounded by authors. It's a great community. It's good. You got to have your people that really just understand it. I feel like if you're not, people, like, readers are always fun to talk to about the world, but writers really get one another's the publishing world, and that's always good to have a couple of good writer friends so that you can bond or commiserate or vent, whatever the case may be. So if you're thinking you would like to give Amanda's writing a try, you can go to her website. It's amandawen.com, correct?
Yes.
amandawen.com. And you can get a free short story when you sign up for her newsletter.
Yeah, it's a Valentine's Day theme short story. So it was inspired. I wrote it last year. It was inspired by an incredibly annoying song that my high school choir learned for singing Valentine's. They would go around to like nursing homes, and people would hire the choir to do singing Valentine's. So yeah, like this is our top group. It's our auditioned choir, and they go around and they do sing. Obviously they can't do that this year, but last year they were. And the song that they would sing, I remember rehearsing it, and it's one of those songs that just gets stuck in your head. And so that whole song, like, oh hey, I could write a story about this. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think I'm going to keep that hire the choir. I feel like I need to put it in a book somewhere. That's a good little phrase there. Yeah, all right. Well, you can check out Amanda's website. You can get her free short story. You can buy her book. You can buy it on Amazon if you want. You can buy it probably on bookshop.org, which supports local indie bookstores. You could request it at your indie bookstore. You could ask your local library to order it and keep it on hand. You can go straight to Kriegel's website and purchase it there. There's so many places where you can get Amanda's book. You can get it in paperback. You can get it in ebook. Are they doing an audio? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about an audiobook, so not yet.
Maybe that's coming. We're not sure.
I hope so.
Maybe someday. It'll be great.
Yeah.
But either way, you can buy Amanda's book. You can support a author, but more importantly, you can have a really good story. Not that it's more important than supporting you. You can have a really good story to enjoy, and you can escape from 2021 and you can go back to 1870s and you can learn what life was like in Kansas during that time. And you can also see how these characters grow and learn so much about how the past affects their future. It's one of my very favorite themes. It's a theme I continuously. You can also follow Amanda on Facebook.
You froze again. You did. You froze again.
Oh my gosh, y'all. We have never had these kind of internet troubles ever.
That's okay.
What was I saying?
All good.
What was I saying? What should I say now?
Well, we're just talking about how amazing Amanda's book is and how everybody should go buy it because you can escape to 1870 or pre-pandemic.
Yeah, take a pic. We're both an escape.
Yeah, it's okay. Go buy Amanda's book. You can. Did you hear me say where we can buy it?
Yes.
Yes.
I did hear that part.
Yes, we heard that.
All right. Well, then you should go follow Amanda on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
How about that?
There we go.
As
There we
author
go.
Amanda Wen.
Yes.
Author Amanda Wen. Yes. Well, I'm so sorry for our internet issues tonight, guys. You know who I'm going to blame for that? I'm going to blame the people who came and fixed our septic system. Let's talk about house problems. Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah. They cut my internet line when they did that, and it's never been the same. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Karen. She said she ordered your book. Yay.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, Dina says it's wonderful. Awesome.
Thanks, Tina.
Do we have any last minute questions we need to answer?
Oh, Brenda says Brenda and I go to church together. So
Yeah, I love that you still have a church library.
Yeah, we do. It's pretty cool. And I think it's even open. Like it wasn't open for a while in the pandemic time, but we are having in-person church, and they have reopened the library just within the last month, I think.
One of my favorite things to do pre-pandemic was to go into my church library and point out all the people who are my friends.
Yes. Church friends, if you want to know who I know, come to the library with me. And I'll be like, oh, I know that one and that one and that one.
She'll give you a tour.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'll introduce you to my friends.
Library. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you for letting us be a part.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much. You guys have literally made this thing happen. And I am so glad that I could just be like, hey, you guys know what you're doing and I don't. So help me.
And we really hope that all of you who commented will follow Amanda, that you'll pick up her book, that you'll tell a friend about it, and that you will also consider following A Rough Draft Life, because we really love to promote other authors and we would love to introduce you to some new ones. Oh, Ashley said she bought it for her mom and her grandma.
Thank you, Ashley.
So sweet. So sweet. All right. Well, Amanda, anything else you want to tell us before we move on?
Oh, that's my mom and dad. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hi, Amanda's mom and dad.
Who's doing all the research? My mom would do the research, and my dad is the one that would, like, you know, she'd spin some crazy idea, and he'd go, "We can do that."
That's amazing.
So they make a great pair.
That's a good pair right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We're going to sign off and say, go buy Roots of Wood and Stone.
Go buy Amanda's book. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
And start reading it tonight.
That's true.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.